I didn't realize it until the suicide attempt, but I was depressed for a while, a long while. And I just made this habit of suppressing all the terrible emotions and memories and thoughts and white knuckled my way through everything. Sometimes I talked about how I was feeling with my friends, most times I didn't. By the time that horrible week came around, I was feeling so bad, just bad. I now recognize that those feelings were hopelessness, despair, and sadness. But that week, the only word I could use to describe how I was feeling was bad. My body was heavy and my mind felt like cotton, like it was so cloudy, right? There was no clarity. I couldn't think straight. It was a mess. I showed up at work, I did my thing, but at the end of the day, I would just sit in my living room consumed by this endless feeling of sadness and grief and raw emotional pain that I couldn't shake off no matter what I did. My exercise routine around that time had changed too. I was still working out, but very differently. No weights, no structure, no timed workouts, just yoga and walks. My body didn't feel like it belonged to me anymore. Like I'd lost my mind and I'd lost my body too. Both my mind and body felt alien to me. I didn't see the suicidal ideation coming at all. I barely made it through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By Friday, I was dead in the water. I knew I was experiencing some form of mental and emotional distress, but I didn't have the language for it. And because I didn't have the language for it, I didn't know how to describe it properly to the people in my life. And so I didn't. My close friends and therapists knew I was struggling, but they didn't know how bad it was, right? Not because they didn't ask or they didn't care, but because I didn't know how bad it was either until I made the attempt on my life. I woke up on Saturday, November 18th, with a mind that was already in autopilot. I went to bed the night before feeling poorly, but had zero thoughts about taking my life. And maybe I'll never know what happened to my mind overnight, but when Saturday morning rolled around, my mind felt like it had split into two, and I found myself at the bottom of a very deep darkness. So at the bottom, meaning that it was already dark where I was, but being at the bottom just means that I was seeing just the extreme form of that darkness. There was no light. There was no light. You could have turned on 1,000 lights in that place and it wouldn't have mattered. There was no light. When I woke up, the suicidal ideation started to play like a loop. From the moment I opened my eyes, that's all I saw in my mind's eye. It was like a movie that you couldn't pause or stop or just, you couldn't pull the plug. There was no turning it off. It was there, and it was there to stay. I had lost control of my mind, so I couldn't even shake the thought off. I couldn't conjure up another thought or fantasy or imagination. I was stuck with this one thought. You are going to do this thing today and you're going to finally have peace. Like, chasing peace was the end goal. That was what we were going for when I woke up. My mind was fixated on that. And I went about my Saturday as I normally would, except I noticed I moved at a slower pace. Again, that didn't really stand out to me, even though now in retrospect, I see that was a warning sign. I was me, but I wasn't me. I still didn't realize at that point that I was in deep emotional and mental trouble. And the thing is, November 18th is a significant date for me. It's the anniversary of my father's death. And every year since his death, I have felt the same sense of dread and grief in the few days leading up to the 18th. And I thought that was the case last year. I thought that I was just grieving in a different way, in a darker way, but it wasn't just grief. I was experiencing severe emotional distress, and my mind was doing everything it could to shut my brain and body off. But my brain eventually got through to my body, and a fatigue that I could not ignore or push away interrupted my attempt. And I am very grateful to my body and to my brain for saving my life. I do not regret surviving, and I know that there are many survivors who feel the same way, even if they are still unpacking that part of their life story. It took me 10 days to realize that I had tried to take my life. 10 days. After I survived my attempt, I did what I did best then. I minimized the situation. I shoved it somewhere in the back of my mind or down that chasm that swallowed me whole that fateful Saturday morning. After the attempt, I remember crying through the weekend, but again, I kept thinking I was overwhelmed with grief and sadness connected to my father's death anniversary, but not once did I consider that I was very depressed and the attempt that I made on my life was a clear cry for help. I went into the new work week still feeling emotionally and mentally off and drained, but I pushed my feelings aside and I just labeled them as too much. And I just turned 100% of my attention to work. So that mind that was already under so much stress and pressure, that was the mind that was working twice as hard alongside my brain to, do what I needed to do at my place of work. Now, on the Thursday following the suicidal ideation, I fell even deeper into that dark place, that chasm, and I had to request a mental health day. And I really thought all I needed was a day, really and truly. I was really moving like Bobo the Clown, right? I really thought, I just need to cry my feelings out and that's it. But I was wrong, obviously, because I found myself once again crying through that week, that Thursday, Friday, and then just another weekend of crying, but also doing a poor job at burying my feelings. The reality is that there was just no more room to bury anything else. I was done. My mind was done with the burying and the shoving. There was just no space. Now, I still didn't tell anyone in my life about the attempt, and I didn't tell my therapist, right? So this is me still days after not realizing what I had done, not facing it, and therefore not having the language to tell anybody what I tried to do, right? And the thought of reaching out for support didn't even cross my mind because I didn't have the right words to describe how I was feeling. All I had was, I just feel bad. I just feel off. Again, realizing now hopelessness, despair, and sadness. So if I couldn't describe my feelings, what exactly would I be calling my friends, my people to say? That I felt off, that I wanted to be at peace with my dad, that I didn't hate my life, but I was simply too exhausted to keep going. I didn't have the words, which is ironic considering that I have built an entire professional career on my ability to tell stories. I couldn't tell mine at that time. Finally, on November 28th, my mind just pushed that memory back up. I mean, I think whether it was a combination of my mind and my brain just sort of being, hey, lady, you tried to do something harmful to yourself. We're going to need you to focus and deal with this thing properly and in a healthy manner, right? And I was horrified. I mean, the best way I can describe it is that the memory just bubbled up and just kind of took over my mind's eye. And I just saw myself, boom, back that Saturday afternoon on the way, and I was so horrified. I was so terrified. I could not believe that I tried to do this thing. I could not believe that that was how distressed I was. And I didn't even know that my mind at the time was capable of conjuring up such a thought. Now, since then, I've read a lot of literature on the mind and the psychology of the mind and the brain. And yes, it is fully possible for your mind to come up with these things if you do not have control over it, if you're not even aware of just how much pressure is on that precious mind of yours. And, when the thought came back, when the memory came back, I booked that appointment with my therapist. And then I just created a list of people that I had to start informing. And I did it over a period of months. I didn't do it all at once. I had to kind of let people know one by one and according to when I was ready. I didn't rush myself into doing it. I confessed. I told them this is how I was feeling. I was feeling low. I was feeling like I wanted to be with my dad. And this is what's going on. And when I went into that therapist appointment, right, and I told her the same thing, like I just wanted to be at peace. That was all that was on my mind. And she asked me, well, why do you think you can only find peace in death? Why do you not think you can experience peace while you're alive? And that was when it clicked. And then this is a connection to the loss of faith, right? Just in the last decade, just since I was following God very faithfully, and I would say that happened around 2012, my understanding of peace was that it's linked to Yahweh, it's linked to Jesus, it's a gift, it's eternal and it's internal, right? But it is ultimately connected to the faith. And so this idea of peace existing outside of my faith and my belief in God was foreign to me. And then I had to start researching and learning about inner peace and understanding that even in the midst of conflict and times of trouble, you can feel peace. You can cultivate a zone of peace where you can still sort of be stable and strong while you face what's going on. And so even though after I lost my faith, I felt like I was nobody and I was just floating, I didn't realize that it was connected to just the entire identity I had built around being a Christian. And so if it was gone, then what was the point of being alive? It's pretty messed up. But the truth is that my relationship with Yahweh was special. He was Abba. He was not just God. He was not just the creator. He was just not Elohim. He was Abba, father, friend, confidant, like everything that was in my heart and on my mind, he heard it first. So of course, that the loss of the faith meant the end of that relationship, which then represented the loss of another kind of father figure. So that earthly father is gone. And now this divine father whom I had been holding on to since 2017, just poof, gone. And I felt that fire dying out, and I fought so hard to keep it burning, but nothing I did worked. And I felt like a failure. I felt like I had failed my God, my community, and the body of Christ. It was a devastating loss. It still is a devastating loss. And I'm still making sense of the fact that, I'm not engaging. And it's weird. It's odd. But that was the trigger. That was the thing that shut my mind down and split it into two, losing my faith. Post-realization, post-confession, I shut everything down. My only goal was taking care of my mind and my emotional self. If it wasn't urgent, if it wasn't an emergency, I moved it to the back seat. I am in the recovery process right now. And the plan is to stick with it for as long as I need to. I'm not going by anybody else's timeline but mine, right? I am going with my mind's timeline. I am doing what I need to do to ensure that I don't fall back into that hole, and I'm able to catch warning signs more quickly, right? Because I had no idea what was going on with me last year. And if you're a survivor or you're someone who is struggling with these dark thoughts, you're also in that recovery process, because the fact that you didn't go through with it means that you get another chance to heal and become the person that your future self will thank you for, right? And if you're in the middle of it, then you know that you can ask for help, and asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And you don't have to put on any label. You don't have to be the strong Black woman or the strong Black man. You don't have to be the strong first son or the strong first daughter. You just be you and get the help that you need, right? Because you're doing this work for yourself. We're doing it for ourselves. So don't put any pressure on yourself to get better for other people, because then it becomes easy to slip back into performance-based healing work. And that's dangerous for you in this place that you are, right? So do the work for you, because your life matters. And the recovery process isn't linear. There is no manager to appraise you or assign a grade to your healing process. You are getting better for yourself first and foremost. When you are emotionally healthy and regulated, you will be a better friend to yourself and to the people in your life. You are not chasing perfection. You are taking life one day at a time. If you survived an attempt and you haven't processed it yet, consider seeking professional help. Licensed therapists and counselors are saving so many lives. Many therapists post informational videos on YouTube and on their websites, buy books on self-development, self-discovery, mental wellness, and healing emotional wounds. There's so much that we don't know about our brain and about our minds, right? And it's only when you read and engage with psychologists, psychotherapists, scientists, biologists, right? That's when you really understand that being a human being is not easy. It's not an easy gig, right? But your life matters. Your life is valuable. You are valuable and worthy of so much love and compassion. You survived, and your future self will thank you for giving your life another chance. Starting therapy months before my suicidal ideation really helped me stay grounded while I tried to make sense of what I tried to do and the role my mind played in that attempt, all the while still showing myself so much compassion for even being in that headspace to begin with, right? And coming so close to ending it all. Speak kindly to yourself. Drown yourself in a river of compassion and love. Talk out loud and get all the uncomfortable, yucky thoughts and feelings out of your head and body. You are valuable. You are not a burden to anyone. The people who care about you deeply do not see you as a burden. They love you and they want you around. You matter. Your needs matter. Your feelings matter. You are going through something so awful and personal, and it is hard to talk about it sometimes. And you feel alone all the time, but you are not alone. You feel it, but you are not. Don't keep those scary thoughts inside your head. Call someone you trust and talk about how you are feeling. Ask for help. It is a sign of strength. I have some insight, I don't know everything, but I have some insight because I also struggled with those feelings months before November 18th. And I thought I was alone. But after reading a lot of survival and recovery stories post-attempt, I realized that I was not alone. I am not alone, and I didn't have to keep those things bottled up inside me. Again, we are still in it, but I am grateful to be alive. My life matters to me, and your life matters too. Never forget that. Thank you for listening. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be joyous. Hope looks so damn good on you.